Hi everybody, welcome to episode 61 of A Fern Between Us.
We are two of the four owners of Vivac Winery. I'm Jesse.
I'm Michelle, and today we are joined by Chris Van Zyl. Chris, do you say Zyl or Zeal?
Zyl.
Zyl. And she is a leisure travel specialist. And so she's going to answer some of your questions about travel and how to get back into that post-pandemic. She actually has been working for over 40 years with her family's travel company that her grandfather actually started 110 years ago. Chris, that's amazing. And
it really is.
It's phenomenal. And so she's going to share some of her expertise with us. And also, as a side note, she is on the board for Raise a Glass Foundation, which is an incredible organization that hosts various international competitions for beer, cider, wine, and all of that goes to charity. So it's a really incredible way to be involved, giving back, and also includes some vino. That's actually how I know Chris, is from working with her through the Great American International Wine Competition, where I'm a judge, and she helps make that happen. So thank you so much for joining us, Chris.
Oh my God, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So if you don't mind, we're going to jump right into one of the questions. We've got several for you. So the first one being, what is the biggest change that you've seen in travel post-pandemic, and what changes do you think will actually stay?
Probably the biggest challenge right now we have is Americans really can't go anywhere. We can't really travel yet. Countries are just starting to open up. So the biggest change is the fact that borders have been closed to Americans for over a year now. Canada is technically closed until June 22nd. Australia and New Zealand has declared that they're not going to be opening up their borders until spring of 2022. Greece is starting to open, France is starting to open, Italy, and possibly Ireland coming up very soon. And, you know, one of the things that's going to probably stay with us during the next several years is the fact that these countries are opening, but they are requiring Americans to be vaccinated to come over. And with that, you have to show your vaccination certificate, and it has to be the original certificate. You know, I've heard people complaining that they don't want to take their original certificate out of the country, but it's really no different than carrying your passport or back in the old-fashioned days when yellow fever was big and you just had to have proof that you had your yellow fever shot if you wanted to go to places like Africa or Brazil. So, you know, health regulations are really going to be something that we're going to have to just start following, and it's going to be a continuous changing process. It's a little bit painful because it changes literally on a weekly basis, but it's just something that's going to be what we're doing down the line here.
Yeah, I'm excited to go traveling again, as a lot of people are. I know a lot of domestic travels happening this summer and stuff, but yeah, that international travel is going to be more of a patchwork kind of thing, isn't it?
It is. One of the things that we're running into also is the fact that the airlines discontinued several of their flights. So right now what we're running into is people want to go, but they don't have the airlift to certain countries. France is requiring, if you're going to be coming to France as a tourist, you actually have to go on a COVID-free flight, which means you take the test 72 hours before you're going to go. You test again at the airport when you're getting ready to take off. So say, for example, in JFK, you would test again with a rapid test. And then when you arrive in Paris, you actually have to be tested for a third time before you can enter the country. So this is going to be stuff that we're going to start seeing happening.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Well, and as somebody with some health issues that leave me very compromised, I am vaccinated, but that makes me personally feel really much more comfortable about, you know, the flight in general, because those are long flights and you do want to get up and, you know, stretch your legs a little bit. And if you were concerned and wanting to stay in your own little pocket, that would be a really difficult flight.
Right? Yeah.
Well, and it's also interesting because the airlines are kind of changing the requirements. Everybody is masking up. Let's just face it, we're going to be wearing masks on planes domestically, at least until the middle of September. That's just a federal requirement. The international, you have to wear the masks, and Lufthansa has come out with regulations saying it can't be a cloth mask, it can't be a vented mask, it has to be a hospital mask, it can't be the N95 mask, it has to just be the simple blue one that everybody, that you can buy for $1 a piece. That's what they want you to be able to wear. So, staying on top of what these regulations are and what each country, what each airline is going to require is, it's going to be a challenge.
That's really interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. The type of mask is significant.
Right.
Well, so our next question for you is, why use an agency like yours instead of online sites for do-it-yourself travel? So people have gotten really used to just, jumping online, they book a flight, but anyone that looks at your website can see that you offer so much more. Can you talk a little bit more to that and what all of those extras are that they get with you?
Well, one of the things, first off, my specialty is leisure travel. I specialize in vacations. I've been doing this for more than 40 years, so I personally have a lot of knowledge. I've been blessed to be able to travel. I've traveled to Asia, I've traveled to Africa, I've traveled to Europe. It's a big world. I still have a lot of places that I want to go. But, with the travel experience, and a majority of our agents in the office have a minimum of 25 years. I fear that we're going to be aging out before you know it, but, we have a ton of knowledge. People who want to go ahead and book their own trips online, that's fantastic. A lot of people really love to do the research, and they like to dig into it, and they want to find obscure things to go see and visit and figure all that stuff out all on their own. And I'm totally fine with that. It takes a lot of work to do a lot of research, and I think people will come to me because they don't have the time. I'm the one who is now going ahead. You tell me where you want to go. Okay, so you want to go to Greece, and you want to do a couple of islands. And you may want to have a nice romantic stop somewhere along the line, but the rest of the time, you're really there for the history, and you want to see things. And you may have some family that used to live there. Well, I'm the one who can go ahead and help you pull together all of that other stuff that you want to do, and I can help you find things to do and suggest things for you to go sightseeing and, make the arrangements for the transportation or the touring, the private guides. I've got connections so that if you really are a major history buff, I can have you go on a tour with a docent and take you around. So that's the kind of thing that people are going to come to me for my knowledge on that type of thing. You may be able to find that on your own. I could do it a lot faster and probably for as good of a price, if not better, than what they can. But I am not cheap necessarily either. I charge for my services now, and that's something that COVID has taught us. I don't do airfare only anymore for my clients. I will for my very good clients, but, for the most part, I'm there to take care of my clients who really want to go someplace special, whether it's on a tour or a cruise, an African safari, something like that. And that's why they're coming to me, because those are destinations that are really tough to try to figure out where to go. If you want to go to Las Vegas, have at it. Expedia probably did a great job.
Well, I think that's such a good point that you bring up too, because I think I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, and we've had this experience ourselves. We love to travel, and people get somewhere and then they realize, oh, that would be cool or this would be cool. They try to piecemeal it while they're there. They have some great experiences, but then they come back and then they hear from other people that have been to that area, and they hear, oh, you didn't get a chance to do that? That's one of the things you've got to do when you're there. And they missed it. And having somebody really knowledgeable like yourself tell us, oh, these are the highlights. You want to make sure to catch this. And this is how you're going to enjoy it the most. You get a much greater, richer experience.
I've got kind of an off-the-wall question. 110 years ago, when your grandpa started the company, were they selling like covered wagon trips to the Rockies in Colorado and stuff, or how did what was travel like back then?
Actually, fascinatingly, I have some really cool pictures from my grandfather was a principal of a high school here in upstate New York where I live, and he felt very strongly, back in the early 1900s, back in those days when you graduated from high school, you left the school, you got married, you lived on the farm, and that's all you did for the rest of your life. And he felt it was very important for his students to experience part of the United States. So he started doing student group tours to Washington, D.C., to Philadelphia, to New York City. So from our little towns up here, they would take the ferry down to the Finger Lakes. They would go across Seneca Lake, then they would hop on the train and go from Seneca Lake and then head on down to New York City or Washington, D.C., or wherever they went. So yeah, sort of covered wagon, but not really. I have very cool old photos of them out in the Rockies and out. I've got a picture of my grandfather standing on just a little spit of land, and El Capitan from Yosemite is in the background, and he's there in a full suit with the high neck collar and the tie and the whole deal, and it's just like, it actually looks very much like an Ansel Adams photo. It's really cool because he's reflected in the water down below.
Oh,
so we've
wow.
got with the old cars. I got all kinds of stuff.
Oh, that is really, really incredible. I love that as the inspiration.
So rad.
I couldn't agree more, and we're trying to travel as much as possible with our daughter, and I think that's something that's so important in understanding how the world works and all of that. Our next question is what's that?
I was just going to say, the one thing when you're traveling with your children, first off, they get to experience different cultures, but they also get to experience how to handle situations that may not necessarily be very comfortable. So your flight is late. The kids are going to watch and see how you react and how you handle a late flight. Or, you get to your hotel room and there's water leaking from the faucet. The kids they're sponges. They will absorb everything. So it's a way of teaching kids, let alone, history and things that they may not necessarily be wanting to study on a book, but when you're standing in Normandy, then you really start to get it. But you also, they're seeing ways to settle conflict and how to deal with people of different cultures, so it's pretty cool.
That is a really good point and so true. And we've had some strange curveballs thrown at us on trips, so that's definitely a learning for Jesse and I as well. So our next question is, where is the most popular destination, and do you agree that that's the best destination?
Okay, so this is kind of an open question because I think the most popular destination is going to be where can we travel today? If we're going to travel now, the most popular destination is going to be either here in the United States because it's easy for us. We can travel as U.S. citizens. We can travel about. Mexico is also a big seller for us, up here in upstate New York. And again, that's going to be kind of regional. So you guys might not be jumping to go to Cancun, Mexico. You may decide that you want to go to the mountains someplace or, something a little bit different. So for our area, Mexico is the big thing because it doesn't require COVID testing to go there. And it's got a lot of airlift. As I had mentioned earlier, the airlines have decreased flights. Well, Mexico is one place that they beefed them back up because people can go. It's not going to stay that way for all the time. People really are itching to get out of the country, and they don't necessarily want to go to Mexico. They really want to go to Europe again, and they want to go to Africa again. I've got a whole bunch of people ready to go on safari, and technically they can go on safari right now. Kenya is open, and there's other areas of Africa that are opening, but it's just, you kind of have to weigh out all kinds of factors, and maybe it's not the best time to go, and maybe that trip is the one that you're going to push off till 2022.
That absolutely makes sense. Yeah. And
right now, Mexico's a big place.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, this past winter, we went down to Mexico. Our brother and sister-in-law are in Mexico right now. Of course, she's from central Mexico, so she's also getting to visit some family. But it was a really nice experience to be able to get away and to be able to, have a very different experience being in a different country. So I can see how that's
sure.
tantalizing.
For sure, it wasn't our first choice either, but it was foreign. We felt like we got a great trip, and Mexico. Besides Italy, Mexico is probably number one for food. Worldwide. I mean, it's amazing. So that satisfied me pretty good.
So we hit actually a little bit on the next question, which was about the best places for people to go now, with your answer on that last one. So we're going to jump to your site offers something that I thought was pretty unusual for meetings and incentives. And if you could describe a little bit about what that is. I hadn't even considered that this was something that somebody could do for us.
Well, for the meeting side, it's a little slow right now because, meetings have really been kibosh now, but we're starting to see some movement already for corporations that really want to kind of get their people back on the road and get them together. So some companies combine a meeting with an incentive. Some of them do just incentives, or some of them do just meetings. And so the meetings themselves, the meetings and incentives, what we do is we'll step in and we'll take care of all the hotel contracts. We take care of the air, the transportation. We make sure that the restaurants are booked if they're doing off-site restaurants. We take care of, all of the details. And it's just kind of that background paperwork. And also, we then, if they would like, we actually have staff that goes with them to make sure that that meeting goes off flawlessly. So that, when they're walking into their room for their lecture that they're going to be doing, that the lectern is there, that the microphones work, that the temperature is correct in the room, because the last thing you want to do is have an incentive or a meeting down in Cancun, Mexico, and find out that the room temperature air conditioner hasn't been turned down and it's 85 and you got 500 people walking into the room in 10 minutes. So it's that kind of thing that we go in and we step in and we take care of and just make sure that that's flawless. We've done airlift for corporations for up to 1,000 people at a meeting. And then for the incentives, some companies do individual incentives so that, it's like a sales incentive, and that you will go on this very special trip to Ireland, or it could be to the Caribbean, or it could be to Paris or to Italy and stay in this very special villa. And then we include transportation and touring, and make sure, again, it's kind of going along, giving that super top level VIP service that these people who have won this sales incentive deserve. And that's what we're there, and we make sure it all happens for them.
That sounds so amazing. I am, eyeing Jesse. I'm like, when do we get to have a Vivac meeting and incentive tour?
Yeah, I would love to, be top seller in a company like that.
Jesse's trying to win one. No, you're supposed to send us. Yeah, right?
And that in itself is a ton of work, trying to pull all of that together and to make sure that it's flawless, let alone for 20 people or 500 people. So.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't do. That's not me.
Well, the idea of having somebody that actually goes along and preps everything is really amazing. I could use somebody like that just here in New Mexico with our business. It would be so fantastic to have that person.
Right.
For example, trying to set up today's show with you saw we could really use that help. So our next question, we're down to the last two. What is your best travel advice, and what is your best packing advice?
Okay. I have a ton of travel advice, and that kind of depends on the destination that you're going to. My travel advice is, if you're going to Africa, I'm going to talk to you about you're only allowed to bring 13 pounds of clothes, and it has to be in a backpack that's only 12 by 9. So this is what we're going to do.
Oh,
Kind of get what clothing you're going to be able to bring. And suggestions. Like probably the one thing that I always tell every single one of my clients is, make sure that your passport is up to snuff, because a lot of people don't really pay attention and they let it lapse. Or a lot of countries around the world require your passport to be valid for a minimum of 6 months after you leave the country. So, we'll have people come along and they'll be like, oh yeah, no, it expires in May. And we're like, no, you can't go. You need to get a number. So now they have to go through the whole process and spend a lot of money to get a last minute passport. Recently, we've run into two major things, and it has to do with COVID and the COVID testing required. We had one set of clients. We advised them about the COVID test had to be taken within 72 hours prior to their departure from the United States to go to St. Lucia. And what happened is the one person didn't have time to do it, so they went the day before. And so that was more than 72 hours prior to departure, and they wouldn't let them on the aircraft. Another couple had a child with them, and the child was traveling. When they had the COVID testing done, they put the parent's name on both vials. So then the child, even though the child tested negative for COVID, they couldn't prove that it was the child's test.
Oh.
So if you're going to be taking kids on a trip that's going to require a COVID test, make sure the child's name is listed on the vial when they spit in the tube. Put it up your nose. That's super, super, super important. It's something that I would not have thought of telling anybody until we've run into this situation. So then here we are, very last minute, we have to rebook the entire trip. And that's why they came to us, because then I was able to step in and go ahead and rebook the entire trip for a week later and have all the penalties waived and get the airlines to waive all kinds of stuff. So.
Well, that's magical. That's an amazing gift to whomever is working with you. That's a really incredible asset to have when things go wrong. Mm-hmm. And so for us, we have repeatedly gone to Europe.
On another thing that you need to do with your passport.
Yeah.
Take a picture of it on your phone, email that to yourself, so that way you've got that passport copy in 2 different places that you don't need to take a paper copy with you.
Mm-hmm. So smart. Yes, thank you. I hate having paper copy. Somehow that just feels weird to have it loose and roaming around.
It does.
Awesome. And so one of my favorite places on the planet is Italy, so I make us go there frequently. What I find when I'm packing is that I'm trying to pack for many different occasions in that country, but then I go shopping when I'm there. How do you, being somebody that has traveled so extensively, do you have a tip for how to cut back on what to pack?
You kind of really think about the destination that you're going to. So for Italy, for women, it's actually much easier for us because a scarf will dress up any outfit. Period. End of story. And a scarf in Italy is actually almost a requirement. It'll cover your shoulders. It'll cover your head. If you're going into touring some churches and things like that. Comfortable shoes are an absolute must. Keeping in mind that I'm never going to see these people again, I don't mind repeating my outfits more than one time per trip. I don't care. So I actually can easily go away in literally just like a backpack. That's all I would need to do for a week. So you just take things that mix and match, and just make sure that you've got 2 solid pairs of pants, and then 4 different shirts, and now you've got a ton of outfits that you can wear, and a couple of scarves. I'm very light on jewelry, so any jewelry, just make it super easy and make it really inexpensive jewelry, so in case it's ever lost or something, that it's not going to be something that you're going to regret.
Does
that make sense?
Yes, that's absolutely brilliant, and you are my packing guru. I love the idea of a backpack. That's amazing. And our final question for you today is, where is your next adventure to?
I'm actually in November, knock on wood, going on an Alma Waterways river cruise with your fellow wine judge, Holly Howell. She's got a group of people going. We've got about 60 people going from Basel to Luxembourg. So I'm very excited about that.
That is amazing. And so those, the river cruises, you stay on board and then they dock and you get to spend the day out and about. How does that work? Do you ever spend the night in a hotel or a place off of the boat? How do those work exactly?
Well, usually, typically, in the river cruises that I've been on, and I've been on a couple, any pre or post would be in a hotel. So the last river trip I did was we started in Vienna, and so I picked up a couple of nights in Vienna because I was traveling with one of my friends. So we went to go see Vienna, and we just went and just did sightseeing and did all kinds of things. So that was a wonderful start to the trip. And then we motor coached over, so this was with a group, over to where we picked up the ship, and we picked up the ship. And then we stayed on the ship for 7 nights. And depending on the itinerary that you're going to, you may overnight in a city on the ship. So like I actually overnighted in Vienna for another trip that I was on. We overnighted on the river because people wanted to spend more time in Vienna. We actually overnighted in Budapest as well. So that type of thing, the hotel becomes, or the ship becomes your hotel. All of your meals are included on something like a river cruise, and then you go touring throughout the day. So depending on the very special itinerary, you may actually hit more than one little town during the day. So you pull into a little town and you can get off, you do some touring, maybe do some wine tasting or, just some kind of special sightseeing, and then you get back on, and then you can go outside and, as you're meandering down, the Rhine or, the Moselle or whichever river you happen to be on, and just enjoying the scenery until you come to your next stop. And then you could stop there possibly for, 7 or 8 hours, and then you kind of get back on and have dinner on the ship. And then they would very slowly, because these are small rivers. They're big, but the cities are very close together. And it's just a wonderful way to go and do sightseeing and seeing different places that you wouldn't necessarily see maybe on another more regulated type of tour that it's like a land-based tour. So I love river cruising. It's when you come home, you actually feel like you've been on vacation. And to me, that's very special.
That is a really good point. I love it. And I cannot wait for our opportunity to get on a river cruise ourselves. Thank you, Chris, so much for joining us today. We're going to move on to a wine tasting and let you go. We are so appreciative of your time, and we can't wait to hire you for our next big adventure.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
And I look very much forward to seeing you coming up in July at the wine competition. So,
yes.
Hey, you can go ahead and talk about the wine competition when you're here.
Exactly. Sounds good. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Guys, thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Miss Denali. I'm going to steal this.
Grab the microphone there.
Grab the microphone. We're going
external today.
Yeah.
To see a cord
it's
here.
not hidden, so that's fun. It's a high-tech production, so what can we say?
So, Wine Club Wines.
Yes, so here we are. We are on to the once per month show, and we've got our Wine Club Wines. Of course, we have pretty much drank all of the rosé of Cabernet. It is extremely tasty, and I think I will pour a little bit more. Jesse,
Yeah.
why did you decide that after having such a successful rosé already on the list, the Rosé of Sangiovese, that you should make another rosé?
Well, after our Central Europe trip, where they had rosé, it was rosé country, lots of rosés, lots of whites. I found that the Cabernet Rosés that I was having over there were amazing, and I thought we should give it a go. And it is amazing and kind of really different than our Sangiovese Rosé. I also don't feel like there's a list can have too many rosés. Honestly, I don't think we're going to stop at 2, honestly. I think it's going to be more.
Well, I love it. I think that that's a phenomenal idea, and it is very different than the Rosé of Sangiovese, with very different abilities for food pairing, and I think it's sensational.
We're also buying a new press this year that I believe is going to help us with having more control over the rosés. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be able to press whole cluster, when we want to and stuff like that. So that's going to help. I think it's going to make our rosé program even better.
Ooh,
and our white program.
Very exciting. Well, and people love rosé all day. I'm sorry, we're getting.
Pick it up. I don't think I have to pick it up.
There we go. We're getting mimed messages. What's wrong? What's wrong? All right. Well, I love both of them, and I think that you should definitely try both of them if you haven't already. Those of you that have the newsletter, because you're part of our wine club, you're tasting these maybe with us. We do include the recipes for some good pairing and using wine with the dish.
Yeah.
Not just drinking wine while you make the dish. And so hopefully you guys are playing around with that too. But I love having the versatility of 2 rosés. All right, so now it's the Cab, straight red Cabernet Sauvignon.
Straight red Cabernet Sauvignon. I love Cabernet. Cabernet is amazing. Cabernet is one of the best, it's the most popular red worldwide, and it's really versatile and does well in lots of climates. But I feel like New Mexico does extra well with it. It's a little lighter version than you're finding in some of your California vineyards and stuff like that. It's just so approachable. I mean, Californians come and they say, I can't believe your Cabernet only costs $24 because they're used to 80, at a minimum often, or whatever. To me, after tasting this, so it's the same grape, same vineyard, just different processing to make these 2 wines. After tasting this for whatever it's been, an hour or something, and then jumping into this one, it tastes like Dr. Pepper to me. It's crazy.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Well, there's a definite prune kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
And also cola, which
Yeah.
is definitely prominent. All these sort of sweet spices from the French oak that you're using. It's more tannic than I was anticipating. I think generally at the house we've had an older vintage. And so tasting this fresh is really nice so that I can, figure out where we're headed. And one of the things that I love about the way Jesse and Chris make their wines is that they are built to age. And this is definitely one that is going to age incredibly. I mean, you can just see all of those telltale signs that this is one that's just going to become more and more brilliant. And it's already brilliant, babe.
Aw.
Cheers. So, one last question. Why would you suggest, and I know this is hard to do because you are the winemaker, somebody drink your wine over a different Cabernet? I mean, you mentioned a little bit about how great the New Mexico cabs are, but why specifically is yours a stunner?
Well, like all of our reds, a French oak only. We don't use any. I feel like that gives it. It's a tighter grain wood, so you get less. It leaches more slowly, so you're not looking at so much wood and so much smoke flavors. It's kind of more vanillin and just subtler flavors that don't overpower. I feel like French oak really works well with red wines. There is what do you want me to say?
No, you're doing great, and I didn't actually have anything in mind.
Oh, okay.
I was just throwing you a curveball.
Yeah,
100%.
no, that's a good curveball. I personally think you ought to give everybody a try. Try all kinds of different Cabernet, or if you like Cabernets, try all different kinds of Cabernets from everywhere, and you'll see what you like, and you'll like a bunch of them for different reasons, for different occasions.
I think actually one of the things that you touched on for a second was price point. $24 for a really well-built Cabernet that's going to age. It's got such oomph as well that I think it's a steal at that price, personally. It
really is. In the world of Cabernets, I mean, they tend to be also some of the most expensive. So on people's list, and ours is low, less than a lot of our wines. It's kind of right in the middle
for the caliber
range.
yeah
for the caliber.
Yeah.
I believe it's one of the better buys at our place, but maybe you don't like Cabernet and it's something else you should. I don't know.
Well, I like doing these side by side where it's the same grape. I think that was a cool choice for our wine club members because it is really interesting to see what the same grape from the same vineyard, same vintage, right?
Yeah.
Or am I lying?
No, you're lying.
Oh, okay. Yep. Never mind. I would say edit that out, but we can't.
We can't.
Well,
it's not the same vintage, but you're gonna get similar responses on, similar kind of things. So,
well, I still like the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the rosé costs decently more than the straight red Cabernet.
Well, I do think that a lot of people don't understand the artistry and skill it takes to make a rosé or a white wine. It is far more tricky than your reds, and it takes a delicate hand and patience and really a lot of foresight. So I think that's, you do...
And a little bit of luck.
Yeah, right. As we finish up for today, trying to, for once, not have a enormously long show.
We're already there, honey.
I know, but we're getting there. Next show, which is not next week, it's next month, so it's July 1st. We are going to finally, I swear, get Chris and Lily on the show.
Yay!
They are coming back from their trip to Mexico. They had an amazing time. We're going to get to hear all about that. I don't know if all four of us are going to be shoved into this little space or not. We all are vaccinated, so that could be really, really fun. And we'll taste the wine club wines of June that week, and we haven't picked them, so we can't tell you. But as soon as we know,
we'll post it on Facebook.
Let you know. Yeah.
A week before or more, and let you know which ones we're trying. For those of you that need to go out and buy them.
Exactly. And everybody else at home that's a wine club member, you're going to get those. So write in your questions. Are there things that you want to know from the four of us? Are there any, wine questions that you want to know? Keep those questions coming in. We are tallying those and keeping track of them.
It's going to be like the Friends reunion.
I don't know that everybody liked that, but okay.
Did they not?
Well, I don't know. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you again, Chris. That was awesome to have a travel professional.
What's the name of her company again?
It is the Van Zeel.
Van Zeel.
Vanzeel.com is the website. And clearly really talented group of people. So check them out. And don't forget, you buy a bottle, you plant a tree. So buy more bottles.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one.